Outbreaks of rain, and this theme pretty much continues for the rest of the weekend and into next week. Just need to keep an eye on Sunday. There is a chance we could see some thundery showers, but otherwise lots of warm sunshine to come. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be the next big winner on the road in this brand new Alnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. Imagine the fun you could have in this luxurious home from home worth over £67,000. We'll also give you £5,000 in tax-free cash to make your next getaway a great one. And it could be all yours. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
please bring us up to date.
Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A very, very good evening to you and welcome to GBN Tonight with me, Martin Daubney. And we're leading, of course, with the huge breaking news story tonight about habeas papam. Of course, the College of Cardinals have elected for the first time historically a North American Pope, Cardinal Robert Prevost, who'll be known as Pope Leo XIV. Now, what does this mean for the Catholic Church and the world, and indeed for the United States of America? And talking of which, earlier on today, the UK and the US agreed an historic new trade deal, swerving those Trump tariffs and boosting Britain's car industry, or did it? And isn't it funny that it's Remainer Starmer who's reaping that massive Brexit bonus? And historian Tessa Dunlop spoke with one of Britain's last surviving Bevin Boys, young men who thought they'd be sent to the front lines only to be conscripted into the coal mines instead, under threat of prison. Now, their labour kept the country running, but their vital wartime contribution went unrecognised until 1995. Fantastic story. Welcome to the show. Well, what a day for breaking news. We started with that historic trade deal between the UK and the USA. So good for both countries, said Donald Trump. The UK is our greatest ally, the first of many deals. But was it a good deal for the UK? I'll have all the details on that. And of course, historically, a new pontiff also elected. Two massive stories, one great show. Get in touch with your views. GBNews.com/your say is the way to do it. But on this historic day, let's get your headlines with Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you and good evening. Your top stories at 7:02. As you've been hearing, Robert Prevost has been elected as Pope Leo XIV, becoming the first North American leader of the Catholic Church. In his first public words, Pope Leo XIV said, "Peace be with you all," as he made a Latin address, adding that this must be a church that builds bridges. White smoke rose from the roof of the Sistine Chapel after a group of 133 cardinal electors chose the new pontiff in the fourth round of voting after the conclave began yesterday afternoon. The 69-year-old from Chicago was only made cardinal bishop this year, with Vatican insiders describing him as the dark horse candidate who quietly rose to prominence days before the conclave. Reaction has been coming in from around the world, with US President Donald Trump saying he looks forward to meeting the first American Pope in what he has described as what will be a meaningful moment. We'll bring you... Well, President Donald Trump has also confirmed that a first-of-its-kind trade deal between the US and the UK has been agreed, with the president hailing it a historic day. During a phone call with Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, the US president said the final details will be written up in the coming weeks, but explained that the deal will create an aluminium and steel trading zone and a pharmaceutical supply chain. The agreement is the first trade deal President Trump has struck in the wake of a global tariff war, and he added that there's no red tape.
The UK will reduce or eliminate numerous non-tariff barriers that unfairly discriminated against American products, but this is now turning out, I think, really to be a great deal for both countries, because it'll be really great for the UK also. So they're opening up the country. Their country is a little closed, and we appreciate that. They'll also be fast-tracking American goods through their customs process, so our exports go to a very, very quick form of approval, and there won't be any red tape. Things are going to move very quickly both ways.
Well, speaking at a press conference after the announcement, the Prime Minister said that the landmark deal will save thousands of British jobs, as car export tariffs will be reduced from 27.5% to 10%.
It is a deal that will protect British businesses and save thousands of jobs in Britain. Really important, skilled, well-paid jobs. It will remove tariffs on British steel and aluminium, reducing them to zero. It will provide vital assurances for our life sciences sector, so important to our economy, and grant unprecedented market access for British farmers without compromising our high standards.
Well, more reaction to that trade deal and the role that Brexit played in an exclusive interview with Boris Johnson on Patrick Christie's Tonight at 9 o'clock. Millions of lives lost, homes, cities and families destroyed, all remembered today for the 80th anniversary of Victory in Europe Day. Allied forces celebrate the surrender document signed in Berlin by the Nazis to mark the end of World War II. Westminster Abbey hosted a VE Day service this afternoon, with the King and Queen alongside other royals and politicians attending. A 2-minute silence took place at midday today to commemorate the anniversary and to remember and thank those who fought for our freedom. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Done. My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Here's Here's a quick snapshot of today's market. The pound will buy you $1.3272 and 1.1821 euros. The price of gold is £2,493.99 per ounce, and the FTSE 100s closed the day at 8,531 points.
Done.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Thank you, Katie, and welcome to GBN Tonight with me, Martin Daubney. Wow, what a day. Earlier today, the world was taken by surprise with that famous puff of white smoke from the Vatican, and it took the cardinals just over 2 days to pick a successor to the late Pope Francis. The Cardinals have chosen for the first time historically an American pontiff. That man is Robert Prevost, who has become known as Pope Leo XIV. And the 69-year-old from Chicago succeeds Pope Francis and becomes the first ever pope from North America. It was quite an unexpected choice, and he's been described as a moderate on social issues and a continuity candidate from Pope Francis before him. I'm delighted to say I'm joined now by the senior reporter at the Mail Online, Nick Pisa, who is live for us in Rome. Nick, a surprise decision, a shock decision, one that took only 2 days to decide, and now the future of the Catholic Church for the first time has an American bent. Tell us more.
Absolutely. You when it was announced from the balcony of St. Peter's that Cardinal Prevost was going to be the next pope, a lot of people turned around and just said to each other, who? An American. They were just absolutely stunned. Obviously, there were many Americans in the crowd who were delighted with that news, and stars and stripes were being waved left, right and centre. But I then spoke to an American colleague of ours here who is in the Vatican Press Centre where I am, who works for a religion news service, and he said that he, as an American, was just also shocked and it had come completely out of left field. He didn't expect it. I mean, as you said in your introduction there, yes, he'd sort of emerged as a possible contender in a dark horse coming up on the outside. But even so, he was still way down, maybe 9th, 10th in the list of the papabile, as they call them, as the people who could be elected pope. And also, after just 4 rounds of voting, that's really, really quick. We obviously had the black smoke yesterday and at lunchtime, and we were expecting white smoke today, but certainly with the name that was given of Robert Prevost, and yeah, complete sense of shock here.
Nick, you're exactly right. There was talk perhaps of a black pope. There was talk of an Asian pope, but nobody was talking about an American pope. It's a complete shock decision. What do we know about the man, Robert Prevost, now Pope Leo XIV? What do we know about his heritage? What do we know about his politics? Nick, there's been a huge conversation about the direction of travel of the Catholic Church. Will it maintain back to its more traditional Catholic conservative roots? Will it be more progressive, as we saw before under Pope Francis? What do we know about the man?
Well, forgive me, I'm going to have to refer to my crib sheet a little bit here because, as we've said, we know very little about him. I can tell you that he's originally from Chicago, 69 years old. He's known as Father Bob to those that know him. And I should say that that American priest I was speaking to earlier said that he does know of him, and he says that he's a multilingual priest. And he also has done a lot of work in South America. He's worked specifically in Peru for charities down there, helping marginalised people and local tribes down there, and he's seen as very popular with the Latin American bloc of cardinals, who obviously joined together to boost his popularity and give him the 89 quorum that was needed. I can tell you also that he's been seen as a continuation of Pope Francis because of that fact that he wants to reach out to the marginalised people and to work with impoverished people and to have a say for the marginalised and the people on the outskirts of society, especially migrants and poor people.
And also he's known, like Pope Francis, as opposing the ordaining of women as deacon, so traditional values there. He is seen as conservative on the doctrine of the church. And Nick, there is some significance, is there not, in the fact he is American. We've seen a resurgence of Catholicism in America under the new Trump regime. And if one were to say, where is the growth markets of Catholicism, South America and the United States of America certainly are where the church seems to be booming. Might that have had something to do with it?
Yeah, well, there is certainly a very large American influence here in Rome and across the Vatican. There are several seminaries funded by donations from North America. There's a Pontifical North American College just based here in Rome, which sends trainee student priests from the United States here to Rome to become Catholic priests, and they are sent out across the world and often return back to dioceses and parishes in the United States. Intriguingly, I should also say that there was a rather bizarre report in one Italian newspaper this afternoon, which caught my eye before this announcement, and it was in Quotidiano Nazionale, which is quite a respected Italian newspaper, and it said that Donald Trump had donated $14 million to the Vatican in recent days to, quote, help cover the costs of Pope Francis's funeral last month. There is no immediate reaction, or I've been trying to get some sort of reaction or confirmation from both sides, but at the moment I'm not getting anywhere. Obviously, there's other things on people's minds here with the election of Cardinal Prevost as Pope. But I found that quite intriguing, because the Vatican does have a large deficit of around 70 million euros at the moment. Was that influential? Who knows?
Well, Nick Peter, it's worth pointing out that J.D. Vance was one of the last political figures to meet the late Pope Francis, and Donald Trump has wasted no time, as you'd expect, taking to Truth Social, saying, I look forward to meeting Pope Leo XIV. It'll be a very meaningful moment, and adding, it's such an honour to realise that he is the first American Pope. What a day for the United States. Nick Peter, thank you very, very much for joining us there live from Rome on this historic day, the election of Pope Leo XIV there at the Vatican. Thank you very, very much. Well, to tell us more now is the historian, Tony McMahon. Tony, welcome to the show. What do you make of this significance, the first American Pope? It's blindsided the media, certainly blindsided the bookies. It's a huge talking point.
I think it's an incredible moment. I mean, let's not mince our words. This is a historic day. I mean, I never thought I'd see an American Pope. I think a lot of people thought the papacy might go to Africa or to Asia, or maybe back home to Italy, but an American Pope, who would have thought it? But what's incredible, what I find interesting, is how quickly, relatively quickly, the decision was made. I would love to know how he came up through the ranks, as it were, to become Pope. And especially as what we've been hearing in recent days, that most of the cardinals didn't know each other because they were all relatively recent appointees by the late Pope Francis and massively spread geographically. So these guys come together, they don't have long to speak to each other, and then bang, they elect an American Pope. How did that happen? There's a book in this, I'm telling you. I really want to know how that happened.
I think you're absolutely right. And, you know, Donald Trump here, as I just said, wasting no time, saying, I look forward to meeting Pope Leo XIV. It is such an honour to realise that he is the first American Pope. But at the same time, Tony McMahon, a huge conversation about the resurgence of Catholicism, of religion in North America. As I said, J.D. Vance, the last foreign dignitary to meet with the late Pope Francis. Tony, if you're a conspiracy theorist, as you said, there could be a book in this.
Oh, absolutely. The trouble is, I think with this Pope, it's intriguing because it's a bit of a double-edged sword. He is from the United States, but whereas some of the American cardinals and archbishops are much more conservative, this guy, in terms of his religious convictions and other convictions, seems to be, they are saying he's in the mold of Pope Francis, that he was close to Francis, but it'll be interesting to see how he evolves. Will he continue Pope Francis' legacy, or will he depart from it? Because he's going to have to do a balancing act between, liberal and conservative forces in the church. But, the thing about the Catholic Church, I'm going to tell you this, they never miss a trick. They put a Polish guy in 1978, just before, Eastern Europe, communism collapsed there, the Soviet Union. They're putting an American in now. What is the Vatican thinking? What is it they're preparing for? I just think it's very, very intriguing. That's my conspiracy side in this.
Yeah, and Tony McMahon, the UK President Sir Keir Starmer has just hailed the election of the first American Pope as a momentous moment. And also, like Donald Trump, he looks forward to meeting the Holy Father and continuing to work closely with the Catholic Church. What a day for Sir Keir Starmer, what a day for Donald Trump, and what a day for the Catholic Church. Tony McMahon, historian, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very, very much indeed. Well, on that man, Sir Donald Trump and Sir Keir Starmer, they have agreed today a trade deal that was only made possible because of Brexit. But British farmers are very, very worried that access for US farmers to our food market could undercut them at a time when they're already under fire. And next, we'll be catching up with Patrick Christys, who, of course, has a Boris Johnson-shaped surprise for you. That's next.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Eve, very good morning. You commentate on this. This is your subject. What do you think? Why is this happening? Because we're sitting now. I'm at a stage now where all my kids are growing up. Whatever. I don't have to face this thing anymore. But I'm suddenly stopping and going, what? What am I paying this for? Why are we paying this? Why is this going to 750 schools and not all schools?
So this is a pilot run by the Department for Education to look at how this programme can work. It was a manifesto commitment from the Labour Party at the last election, and they're very keen to roll this out nationally, but they're doing this pilot for a short period until July to see how they can do this effectively to ensure that it meets the most children. So really, that's a kind of sensible way of rolling out what is quite a big programme.
It's important to do the pilots and study it and see who it helps and who it doesn't, and how expensive it could be if it's rolled out nationally.
For this?
Well, exactly. What do they say about that, Eve? I mean, where are they going to get the money to pay for it?
So they've committed to 30 million towards it. To be honest, we're in a situation as a country where 1/4 of primary school teachers are saying that they regularly spend their own money on feeding kids. That cannot be right. We know that we've got a child poverty problem in this country, and I think it's a reasonably good use of taxpayers' money to be spending it on ensuring that children go to school and they are fed and able to learn.
Well, I just look and I think the basic primary parental responsibility is to look after your children, to feed your children. And I sit and scratch my head and say, of all the things that we can do as parents, all the things we can spend money on, are you telling me that you can't give your kid a bit of toast and a cup of tea in the morning?
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Now, brace yourselves, because this evening at 9 p.m, it's Patrick Christys tonight, and the star of the show, the formidable Patrick Christys, joins me tonight. You've got a Boris Johnson-shaped hole. It looks beautiful.
Yes, well, an amazing start to my day, actually. I spent this morning in the Battle of Britain bunker, where Churchill sat, helping to orchestrate the victory over the Luftwaffe, a defining moment in Britain's history as we marked the 80th anniversary of VE Day. And Boris Johnson flew in, especially from Washington. We obviously did speak about, you know, Churchill, his legacy, the war itself, but there were some other bombshell clips in there, like this one about grooming gangs.
The grooming gangs. This nonsense, you know. You come down much harder.
Yeah, how does that make you feel when they see that dominated the headlines? And Labour seems to be saying, oh, it's political points.
I think it's absolutely extraordinary. I don't know quite why we don't have a proper national inquiry into it.
Yeah, he also got stuck into the small boat crisis in the Channel.
Don't we kind of do something really crackers like Trump and put a 500% tariff on all French cheese and wine until they stop the boats coming from Calais?
But of course, the big news this week was, well, how badly the Conservatives were doing at the local elections. And the polling data showed that only one man, only Boris Johnson, could come back and potentially lead the party to glory and beat Nigel Farage. But here's his view on that.
You don't think we'll see Prime Minister Farage?
I don't, no.
Look, there's obviously a heck of a lot more to it. It's going to be a really big show tonight, Martin. We've got Boris. We're taking King Charles live at 9 p.m. on VE Day as well. We're obviously going to be touching on the Pope as well and that trade deal. In fact, it's so big tonight, I'm doing not one, not two, but 3 hours. It is 9 till midnight. I'll see you there.
As if today can get any more epic, 3 hours of Patrick Christie's superb work, Martin. Always a pleasure. 9 p.m, Patrick Christie's live. Now, today, the UK and the USA have agreed a brand new trade deal, one of which Brexit has been given all of the credit, and that must have stuck in the craw of Sir Keir Starmer. Well, earlier today, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, and the President announced the deal. Let's take a listen.
There won't be any red tape. Things are going to move very quickly both ways. The final details are being written up in the coming weeks. We'll have it all very conclusive, but the actual deal is a very conclusive one.
Really important deal. This is going to boost trade between and across our countries. It's going to not only protect jobs but create jobs, opening market access.
Well, it started, Kelsey. It looked like a Zoom call during lockdown, and the deal will see the tariffs on the UK car entry slashed from 25% to 10%, which will be a huge boost to British companies, or will it, such as Range Rover and Aston Martin. And the Prime Minister said this.
And for the great British cars that you make here, that we see all around us, this deal means that the US tariffs will now be cut from 27.5% down to 10% for 100,000 vehicles every year. That's a huge and important reduction. And I know from when I was last here how much that will have been weighing on your minds when you knew the size of the tariff that would otherwise be in place.
Well, the Prime Minister looked excited. The Jaguar Land Rover employees, they look like they're at a funeral. However, this deal could be more bad news for British farmers, as it's understood that the tariffs on American beef will be cut to zero as part of a 12-month temporary arrangement. Now, that could mean the UK could be flooded with cheap American beef, undercutting British farmers at a time where they're already severely under the cosh. Let's get some reaction now from the director of UK-US Special Relationship Unit Prosperity Institute, Sarah Elliott. Sarah, and for full disclosure, the Prosperity Institute is owned by the Legatum Group. The group is also one of the lead investors in the holding company of GBNews. Sarah Elliott, I've got to say, this was trumpeted by Donald Trump as a great deal for both countries. The UK is our greatest ally, and yet the bonus for America is abundantly clear. $11 billion worth was set out in that conference there, $5 billion worth of new market access, $6 billion of tariff revenue for the American exchequer. Well, what's in it for Britain?
Well, the consumer benefits from this because you'll get more products at lower prices. The car industry continues to sell well in the United States. And in fact, the British car industry focuses mostly on luxury cars, Rolls-Royce, Aston Martin, Bentleys. People like to pay more for those luxury items. It raises the status of owning them. But it's a great first step. I don't see this as a real comprehensive deal, but I do see that major milestones were made, particularly in agriculture. I mean, you have to remember there were 50% beef tariffs that the UK placed on U.S. beef producers, pretty high. And the UK has 40 active free trade agreements around the world, and it should have one with the United States. So I hope this is just a movement in the right direction where we can continue to lower tariffs and non-tariff barriers.
Sarah Elliott, I hear what you're saying, but I've been speaking to British farmers who have been in the studio oftentimes since the beginning of what they see as a war on them by Sir Keir Starmer, and they don't share your enthusiasm. They've been saying to me today that opening up the British market to US beef could decimate our own industry. America produces so much more beef than the United Kingdom. On ethanol, a previous tariff of 19% down to 0%, and the US wheat industry subsidised by the state. This doesn't create a level playing field. It creates a system British farmers are feeling where it's going to further impact their bottom line. It's a good deal for America. Why is it a good deal for Britain?
Again, choice and competition is always good for the consumer in raising standards of living and lowering prices. But what has to be remembered is that the British have been buying most of their beef and things from the EU. They have a free trade agreement with the EU. And so now I think it's more changing its market base from maybe purchasing from the European Union and more from the United States. So it may not change the quantity or the amount on the shelves, just maybe where it's being purchased. The UK is a food net importer. It can only feed itself. It can only produce 62% of the food it consumes. So it does need to import arable crops, fruits, and vegetables of different kind. And why not do it from your best ally, the United States? It's a huge economy, and Americans love
Sarah, that
British
is not
goods.
what British farmers tell me all the time. Hundreds and hundreds of British farmers, thousands of them were out there, loads of them were in this studio. They don't tell me that we need cheaper imports. They tell me we need to support the British farming industry. And they tell me today doesn't do that. But look, we have to leave it there. Sarah Elliott, thank you very, very much for joining us on the show tonight. Well, let's continue this conversation now. So I'm delighted to join in the studio by the international journalist Hadley Gamble. Hadley, welcome to the studio. You were listening in there, nodding along. I've got to say, I've been through the detail, poring over the detail. Definitely a great deal for the United States. I'm not seeing this such a great deal for the United Kingdom.
And hey, listen, with all due respect to Ms. Elliott, I mean, that just sounded crackers to me. It is an incredible deal for the United States. This is a week of big wins for the U.S. president. Obviously, he's got this win on the trade deal. He's got a big win in the American Pope, the new Pope, Pope Leo. But also, just look at the optics of this. If this had been a big deal, a great deal for the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer would have been in the Oval Office, taking his victory lap. And he wasn't. He was here in the UK. He was at Jaguar Land Rover. You saw the faces of the folks standing behind him. They didn't look terribly enthusiastic about this. Yes, and why was it a funeral? Because this is a company where essentially it's 6% margin, right? And we're talking about a 10% tariff. So that essentially wipes out their profit margin. And also they've said 100,000 cars. And as you and I both have discussed, they sold last year 101,000 cars in the United States. So that's basically saying that this is a company that can no longer grow in America.
And Kemi Badenoch has spoken out on this. She said that the UK has been shafted by this deal. Now, she might well say that because she's the leader of the opposition. But time and again, when you look at the detail, things like ethanol can now come into the UK at a greatly cheaper rate, tariffs 0% on that. We're being taught the ephemeral benefit of being afforded the security blanket of the US. What does that mean? How does this help British workers? We're told it safeguards British jobs, but the fact of the matter remains this. Very, very simple, Hadley. This is the worst position for the United Kingdom than it was before the tariffs came in.
Well, essentially, you had very little choice. To be to be kind and clear about Keir Starmer here, he had a bad choice or no choice at all, right? Because you either went with this or you didn't get a deal at all. So I'm assuming that that was his thought process here, but that doesn't escape the fact, you know, this is a country that's in industrial decline at 2 times the rate of the United States. This is a country now facing this wealth exodus of billions of dollars. This is the cost to your economy. So he's trying to do something that is clear, but what he has done has essentially not been good for this country. And when you look at just the very basics of it, I mean, the only people that really did well out of this, Rolls-Royce, perhaps, because these are 0%. Rolls-Royce engines in Boeing planes, which are now going to be getting at a decent price. But the questions about, you know, this is perhaps the worst made aircraft in recent history. So do you really want a Boeing aircraft? You know, you take a step back and look at the details. As they say, the devil is always in the details.
And having the point of that, a Boeing aircraft needs a Rolls-Royce engine. So
correct.
It's a component that will benefit American airline sales. So Rolls-Royce is bolted on. Rolls-Royce, hats off to them. They've done well. Brexit, quickly mention Brexit. We undoubtedly were at the front of the queue today because of Brexit. After Barack Obama told us we'd be at the back of the queue if we voted Brexit. That didn't quite work out for him. Sir Keir Starmer, however, was the architect to try and bring down Brexit. We were the first in line. The rest of the world will be watching. What do you think the rest of the world, particularly the European Union, will look at this today and think, wow, if Britain, the special relationship, our greatest ally, got this treatment, let's be assuming the brace position.
No doubt about it. And, you know, just a couple of weeks ago, I was at the IMF in Washington. I had the chance to sit down with the French finance minister, and he said that his country had not even had, you know, a detailed conversation yet about what could possibly be in their trade negotiation, their deal. So at the same point, you got to take a step back and think about this within the context of history. This is VE Week. This is VE Day. The U.S. president claiming a major victory. Well, you'll remember what happened after World War II to the United States and to Great Britain. Britain wasn't so great after World War II, and it was the American century, the 20th century. So you got to question how a prime minister of the United Kingdom could look people in the face and say, this is a great deal. That, to me, is crackers.
You know, Hadley Gamble, I think you're right. I think today was a Victory in Europe Day for the United States. Hadley Gamble, always a pleasure. Please come back. Excellent guest. Superb. Thank you. Now, coming up next, the historian Tessa Dunlop interviews one of Britain's last Bevin Boys, men sent to the coal mines instead of the front lines, whose vital efforts weren't officially recognised until 1995. It's a magnificent package, and that's coming next.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking ahead towards the next couple of days, it's going to be feeling much warmer, particularly across eastern areas. Wall-to-wall sunshine for many, but it is still going to be fairly chilly through the overnight period. And the reason for this settled weather is all thanks to an area of high pressure slowly shifting its way eastwards, which means things are eventually going to start warming up for eastern parts. But back to this evening, we're going to see a mix of cloud and clear skies. And where we see the clear, prolonged skies, that's where temperatures are going to slip away, possibly even seeing some rural frost by the morning, potentially even some mist and fog too. So some areas just dipping below freezing, but for many, mid to low single figures. So a fairly chilly start for Friday, the end of the week. Potentially some cloud just drifting into the very far northwest of Scotland, perhaps bringing some light outbreaks of rain later. But for the majority of Scotland, a dry and bright start, and fairly similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, a dry and bright start to the day, and similar elsewhere across much of England and Wales. But it is going to be chilly, still potentially some mist and fog during the very early hours, but clearing quite readily through the course of the morning. And high pressure sticks around, so for many, we're going to see plenty of blue skies, particularly across central areas where they've had quite a cloudy afternoon this afternoon. And we could potentially see a fair bit of cloud just starting to creep into the very far northwest, some light outbreaks of rain later on into the afternoon. But for most, a dry, sunny day, feeling warm in the sunshine, highs of around 21 degrees Celsius. And you're particularly going to feel that in eastern areas where it's been quite chilly. Then for the start of the weekend, a fairly similar day. Lots of sunshine to come, but still a fair amount of cloud across the northwest with the chance of some light outbreaks of rain. And this theme pretty much continues for the rest of the weekend and into next week. Just need to keep an eye on Sunday. There is a chance we could see some thundery showers, but otherwise lots of warm sunshine to come. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, Martin Daubney. Now, on this historic VE Day, the 80th anniversary, we salute the brave souls who fought for king and country. But what about the forgotten heroes who fought underground? Well, thousands of young British men destined for the front lines were instead shoved into the coal mines to help keep the war effort alive and fired up. And the historian Tessa Dunlop spoke to one of the last remaining Bevin Boys, Phil Robinson, aged 99, overlooked for decades, but not for today.
Imagine it's 1944 and you're a young lad who's watched the whole war from the sidelines, and now it's your chance to put on a uniform and serve for king and country, when suddenly you're told, no mate, you're going down the mines. Because that's what happened to 48,000 young men when Ernest Bevin, the Minister of Labour, discovered that there was a chronic shortage of coal. And so the Bevin Boys were born, the great unsung heroes of the war who weren't recognised for their efforts for decades, which is how I found Phil Robinson when I discovered his story. Better late than never. We're going to find out that, lest we forget, Phil Robinson served too. Can I have a hug?
Yeah.
Or is that just for the Countess of Wessex? What do you normally do for lunch?
Sandwich.
Do you? Oh, I'm sorry, I can't believe you don't like chicken soup. You might have told me that yesterday.
You didn't ask me, did you?
No, I didn't. I just presumed you'd eat anything, your generation. No fussy buggers in the war, was there?
Another cook. I'd shut that bloody door.
Right. Where are we going to sit?
It's getting cold, mate.
So, Phil, we're sitting here 80 years after the end of World War II. It was a conflicted experience for you, wasn't it? The
Yes.
Second World War. How do you end up as a teenager down a mine? Could you explain for people who weren't alive then what happened?
I was due to be called up, right? And I'd had my army medical, which I passed, A1. And then I think, from memory, I was interviewed by the army and also the RAF, and who said they would notify me when in due time, because this was before I was 18.
So you're 17 years old?
Yeah.
And how much did it matter to you?
We were all quite happy about that, yeah. And then I got this letter to say that you have been balloted. Disregard all previous instructions. You have been selected to go down the mines, right, as a conscript. There is no appeal, and if you don't go, you may be sent to prison. So it was a huge selection of Nissen huts.
So there was a real cross-section?
It was a cross-section of the whole of Great Britain. We were patriotic then, I don't know about now, but then we wanted to do our bit. We wanted to beat the Nazis and all that, and we were quite proud to be wearing a uniform if we could, but we were denied that.
All World War II service veterans that I've met speak of the great pride they took in wearing a uniform and the special treatment they got. The Bevin Boys, with their dirty, dangerous underground work, were accorded no such recognition, quite the reverse. They were denigrated in their civilian clothes. What are you telling your family and friends you're doing?
You hide it.
Do you?
Because we were getting odd looks, young fellas in civvies, not in uniform.
So people thought you were shirkers?
I think they did, yeah. And for many years, it's always said that we were volunteers. We weren't. There were volunteers, and there were conscientious objectors. But they got short shrift from us, who were conscripts. In fact, they went through a bad time.
And tell me about after the war, because increasingly it's fated as a hero's war.
Yeah, the Royal British Legion have never recognised us.
Did they not?
They're still not.
Really?
No.
Because you weren't in a military service?
That's right.
And could you explain to me, for the generation who haven't lived through the war and seen people fated for serving in their military uniforms, explain to me what it means to finally have a memorial to your war, to your service?
Oh, that was good.
Was it?
Yeah, that was good. I remember the parade. There was a few of us sat there. We had white helmets on, and that's about it. And the parade organiser was a RSM, Royal Marines, big lad. And he looked and he saw me and he said, "Bevin boy?" I said, "Yeah." And he grabbed hold of me. He gave me a big hug. And he said, and they put us in the procession, right? And we got a Land Army girl with us.
Good for you.
Yeah. So as we marched along, all at once, everybody's clapping. Yeah, and we got a tremendous ovation. That was good.
Good, about time too.
It was good, yeah.
Thank you for being in my book. Thank you for sharing your amazing story.
Okay.
And reminding us that everyone's war was different, wasn't it? But you were all doing your bit.
Yeah.
What a wonderful package there from Tessa Dunlop. Phil Robinson, 99 years young, went underground. I think coal miners are heroic. My dad was down the pit 47 years after the war, digging for Britain to rebuild it. Finally acknowledged and recognised for their heroic war effort, although it wasn't on the front line. Magnificent stuff. Now, coming up next, I'll be speaking with GB News' senior political commentator Nigel Nelson, who uncovered a shocking and yet delightful family secret. Not only was his mother a code-breaking wren working on the historic Enigma machine, but during a visit to Bletchley Park, he discovered she was also a top MI6 spy. It's a magnificent story, and that's next.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Whilst there's high pressure across the UK, bringing largely settled weather here, it's a different story over more southern parts of Europe. A fairly potent feature is pushing into parts of the Canary Islands towards Madeira as well, bringing some wet and windy weather as we go towards the weekend. Elsewhere, a fair few showery bursts of rain around. We've had some heavy thunderstorms affecting Italy. They've now pushed their way a little bit further southwards, could cause some further issues, turning a little bit drier for many as we go through the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
The The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GBN Tonight on this historic day. And whilst the focus is rightly on the veterans who served, what about the families they left behind? Well, many are still uncovering the secret, heroic roles that their loved ones played during the war. Now, World War II was the most secret war in history, with many, including those at Bletchley Park and MI6, taking their magnificent secrets to the grave. Well, our senior political commentator Nigel Nelson only discovered the truth about his mother's past when visiting Bletchley Park. And not only was she a codebreaker Wren, but also an MI6 agent working to dismantle Germany's U-boat operations. Well, I'm delighted to say Nigel joins me now. Nigel, this is straight out of a Bond movie. It's absolutely magnificent. And what's even more pertinent, you had to break the code of this story yourself.
Yes, I mean, more. And I was shaken and stirred when I found out. All it was that my mother had told me that she worked at Bletchley Park, that she was a humble Foreign Office clerk there, basically monitoring the U-boat wolf packs in the North Atlantic and sticking pins in charts. That was it. So I had no idea what else she did. I knew then she went off to Germany and she was chasing German scientists that we wanted for Britain and then checking up on the Nazi past. But those are about the only things I knew. One Sunday, nothing to do, went up to Bletchley Park to have a look around, looked up in the Roll of Honour to find her name. And the weird thing about it was that there were no details there whatsoever, apart from something in the margin which said that the Foreign Office held the file on her, which I found peculiar. talked to the archivists at Bletchley, and they said, well, that means that she was MI6. And so since then, I've been trying to track down what she did during her career that she kept from me all those years.
And why did you decide to try and decipher this story? I heard that there was a cryptic note which should put you onto the scent.
Yeah, I mean, because she kept it secret, I always wondered whether I should be making this public. That she'd obviously decided she didn't want anyone to know that she'd worked for MI6. And there was a cryptic note right at the end, just before her death, that she left for me. And she said, if you try hard enough, you'll be able to find some more details about my life. You're the storyteller. You go out there and try and do it.
A code breaker left you a code.
It left me a message to go and do it. So I thought, right, I will go and do this and see what I can find out.
Wow.
So I approached MI6, who didn't help me at all to get to the bottom of it. But it was a matter of putting things together. Knowing that she was a spy made a number of things from my life fall into place, because there was a school friend whose uncle was a very senior MI6 officer. He had spoken to my mother, and she was furious that I told him anything about her. I got the biggest rollicking of my life for doing it, and I thought, but why? What's the problem? Some years later, when I was planning to go to university, I was holidaying with him over in Austria, and he then said, would I like a career in MI6? And he added a very cryptic comment, which was, with your family connections, it'll be easy.
Wow.
Well, I didn't know I had a family connection, so suddenly that kind of thing fell into place.
Did that cryptic comment not make you think, what do they
yeah,
mean?
It did, but he was a spy. Spies always make cryptic comments. So I didn't know what he was talking about. I decided I didn't want a career in the Secret Service on the basis I'd rather reveal secrets than keep them, which is why I became a journalist.
It really is an incredible story, and so in keeping with, you hear so often about those who were entrusted with Britain's innermost secrets didn't really want to talk about it, not even to their own family.
This is the thing. I mean, that she felt she had, as far as I can gather, she felt she had to keep the secret for a lifetime. I went back to Bletchley Park for reunions of veterans with her picture to try and find somebody who might have known her. Eventually I did. And these were all people who wanted to keep the secret for life. And it was only very recently they felt able to come out with it. And I was told then that what Mum did was that she was the MI6 liaison in the Naval Hut 4, now it's the tea shop, and what her job was to filter the intelligence that was coming through, because it wasn't to go direct to the Admiralty, it was to go purely to MI6, so they could decide if they could pass it on without giving the secret away to the Germans. We'd broken their codes.
And do you think that your mother there, May Phillips, was having a cryptic smile from beyond the grave about you and uncovering the truth? It's just a magnificent story.
Yeah, and I think she probably is now.
Thank you very, very much. And you did use a fruity word there to describe you being told off. Apologies if anybody was offended. That was a superb story. Nigel Nelson, wonderful stuff, especially to share on VE Day. Thank you very much for joining us in the studio. Now, up next, of course, is State of the Nation with that man, Matt Goodwin, who joins me now. Matt, what's on your menu?
Well, good evening, Martin. Can I just say that what a fantastic story that was. I'm still sort of chewing over the details. Yeah. We've got more reaction to the arrival of the new Pope. We'll be looking at that US-UK historic trade deal. We'll also be looking at whether interpretations of Winston Churchill and his role during VE Day are historically accurate, and I might just mention some polling that's been released today. You'll have to tune in and see.
I'm assuming it's more juicy information about the resurgence of a certain party, beginning with the letters REF.
You'll have to tune in and see.
Superb stuff. You see, another cryptic code we have to try and crack on the show. Superb stuff. Gentlemen, thank you very, very much indeed. Now, what a day it's been. What do you make of that US-UK trade deal? A deal that's great for both countries, we were told by Donald Trump. I've been through the details. I've got to say, it's a great deal for America. Tomorrow, we'll dive into the details. Was it good for Britain? I'll be back at 3 p.m. Now, don't forget, you can hear Patrick Christie's full interview with Boris Johnson at 9 p.m. on Patrick Christie Tonight. Boris Johnson in the War Bunker, channeling his inner and Winston Churchill. All of that to come, but first, here's your weather with Honor Krizik.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking ahead towards the next couple of days, it's going to be feeling much warmer, particularly across eastern areas. Wall-to-wall sunshine for many, but it is still going to be fairly chilly through the overnight period. And the reason for this settled weather is all thanks to an area of high pressure slowly shifting its way eastwards, which means things are eventually going to start warming up for eastern parts. But back to this evening, we're going to see a mix of cloud and clear skies. And where we see the clear, prolonged skies, that's where temperatures are going to slip away, possibly even seeing some rural frost by the morning, potentially even some mist and fog too. So some areas just dipping below freezing, but for many, mid to low single figures. So a fairly chilly start for Friday, the end of the week. Potentially some cloud just drifting into the very far northwest of Scotland, perhaps bringing some light outbreaks of rain later. But for the majority of Scotland, a dry and bright start, and fairly similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, a dry and bright start to the day, and similar elsewhere across much of England and Wales. But it is going to be chilly, still potentially some mist and fog during the very early hours, but clearing quite readily through the course of the morning. And high pressure sticks around, so for many, we're going to see plenty of blue skies, particularly across central areas where they've had quite a cloudy afternoon this afternoon. And we could potentially see a fair bit of cloud just starting to creep into the very far northwest, some light outbreaks of rain later on into the afternoon. But for most, a dry, sunny day, feeling warm in the sunshine, highs of around 21 degrees Celsius. And you're particularly going to feel that in eastern areas where it's been quite chilly. Then for the start of the weekend, a fairly similar day. Lots of sunshine to come, but still a fair amount of cloud across the northwest with the chance of some light outbreaks of rain. And this theme pretty much continues for the rest of the weekend and into next week. Just need to keep an eye on Sunday. There is a chance we could see some thundery showers, but otherwise lots of warm sunshine to come. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be the next big winner on the road in this brand new Alnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. Imagine the fun you could have in this luxurious home from home worth over £67,000. We'll also give you £5,000 in tax-free cash to make your next getaway a great one. And it could be all yours. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have